about fears. Let's talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love.
Okay, welcome back to Unsolved No More. Very excited to get into another case here. Taking a break from the Idaho murders for a little bit and do a little bit of a deep dive. Well, I hesitate to call this a deep dive almost because there is so little information out there on it. I mean, I know I've done cases where there seems to be little information, but this one reminds me of, what was that other one? The Nick. I should know that, but I'm losing my mind a little bit anymore. Nick something that I didn't do a deep dive on, but I did talk about, and I intend to do a deep dive on. It's just the family has been very slow to get back to me on some crucial information to do that. But I digress. Let's talk about Joanne Dunham. I got this case from a commenter, I believe, on my Facebook page. Joanne was her cousin. Anytime a family member gets a hold of me, I try my very best to help them out. It's really nice when they have information, police reports or autopsy reports, but sometimes they don't. And, just because they don't, should I punish them for that? They've already been punished enough. So I'll look at it. I can't promise anything, but it puts it on this platform where it's viewed by a lot of people. And therefore, who knows? Somebody may contact me with information, or preferably law enforcement. And preferably, they'll actually do something about it. Worst thing in the world, besides not calling family members back as law enforcement, is when you get a tip in and you don't do anything with it. Boy, does that bother the piss out of me. That just irks me. Irks me. And I've seen it happen. I had the state police tell me one time that I was a county detective. So I was in charge of all the cool cases in the county. But you had the Pennsylvania State Police, so they're obviously in charge of the entire state. I was working an unsolved case, and they told me, how did it happen? I questioned a suspect's brother in jail, and they got wind of it. And they called, no, that's not what started. It was newspaper. Newspaper called me and asked what cases I was working. I had that case on my desk, and I really wasn't working it yet. I was researching, I was reading it, trying to see what it was all about. Paper asked me, what cases are you currently working on? And I just looked. I had 3 cases on my desk, told them. They ran the story. Heck, the story's right over there. You see it. That's the cracking cold cases. That's what started it. State police commander read that. He ended up calling the crime lieutenant, I think, or corporal. And I was on good terms with this guy. He called the district attorney instead of calling me like a man would do. He went over my head and just showed me the type of person he was. But the district attorney, it's not like, he's yelling at me. He came back, hey, what's going on? I told him, okay. They got so upset then, and it just fueled my fire more. I said, okay, now you pissed with me, like that. Now I am going to work that case. And I did work it. I came up with a different conclusion than the state police did. And I let the DA and everybody know that. I was not a fan of the state police after that, but I don't like to group an entire organization into the acts of a few. And they were not a fan of mine either. But I don't give a fuck. Okay? That's how I felt about it. And I still feel that way about it. Anyhow, they had told the district, this is a long way to go about it. They had said, hey, you will not interview anybody about this. If somebody comes to the district attorney's office and has information on a case, you send them down to our office, 5-6 miles away. You don't talk to them. Now, you guys known me long enough, you can imagine my response to that. You're out your goddamn mind. If you believe for a split millisecond that I'm going to let somebody who just had the courage after 30, 40 years to walk to my office to give information that could solve a cold case, and you're going to tell me, you're going to try to tell me because nobody tells me anything. You're going to tell me, hey, you got to go to the state police. Drive 6 miles so that way in that route there, you can change your mind, then not give the information. You came to my office because you trust me. You see what I'm saying? They're going to change their mind. I still get fired up thinking about that. So that is a pet peeve of mine. Egos. Okay? Egos have ruined more cold cases than failed evidence. That's a fact. I digressed for about 5 minutes there. And I apologize. When I get on that rant about that case, and I haven't done that case on this channel yet, and I intend to, I will make some state police personnel very mad. I don't care. I've made them mad before, so that's just the way that it is. Now, back to Joanne Dunham. Again, her cousin got a hold of me. I said yes, I would look at it. Started to research it, and man, very little there. Joanne was 15. She disappeared on June 11th, 1968. From Charlestown, New Hampshire. Again, she was 15 years old. When she was last seen, it was 7:10 a.m. on a Tuesday on her way to school. She was walking towards the bus, to the bus stop. She never made it to school. And her body was found the next day about 2 miles from where she was last seen. Now, there's a couple interesting facts about this that made me a little perplexed. And one of them was when she was found and how she was found. It's interesting that each newspaper article I read gave a little bit more information. And do you know how that happens? Well, each subsequent press release, press conference, the investigators give out a little bit more information. So therefore, you start with the day after she was abducted in the newspaper, you'll read about it. And then the next day, you get a little bit more. And the next day, a little bit more. I like to stay within that month time frame. Because then things start you're not getting as much information, because it's going cold and people forget about it. And then at the 5-year mark, the 10-year mark, the 20-year mark, then they'll run a big newspaper article. I stay away from those ones because there's rumors in those ones, okay? Because after a case has become cold for so long, then you start getting some weird stuff, stuff that isn't even relevant. I like staying condensed in that first couple months. And that's what I did here. So what I found was that when her body was discovered 2 miles away, it said it was located in a pile of leaves. Didn't say she was buried. That's number one. A search and rescue team found her. Number two, she was bound. But how she was bound is very interesting to me. Her hands were bound behind her back, and she had it's masking tape around her mouth and head and face. It wasn't just like it was a strip. From what I'm reading, I didn't see pictures. But that's how it sounded to me. And she actually had died from suffocation, asphyxiation. Okay, the tape around her face is what killed her. She was fully clothed. Now that right there is a big clue. Very big clue. And it's very different from most cases that we see, especially on this channel and cases that I look at. I'm going to say a good 90% of the cases, at least here, are sexually motivated crimes. Remember, most crimes, most murders fall under, and I just label it GSR, because gunshot residue, that's how I remember it, greed, sex, revenge. Remember, they don't all fall under there, but most of them, and there's subcategories under there. Well, this one, we can certainly take out sex, right? She's fully clothed. There was no indication she was sexually assaulted. So that leaves you with two. Greed and revenge. Now, I've given you every piece of information that I have on this case, except for one. And this clue, to me, made all the difference in the world. I want to give praise to the investigators for finding this clue, because without this clue, this case would be very difficult to figure out what happened. Because right off the bat, if it's not a sexually motivated crime, she's bound, she's fully clothed, the first thing that popped into my mind is it is an attempted kidnapping for ransom. Let's look at what the father did. It goes back to victimology. Victimology isn't just the victim. It's the family, okay? Dad was a police chief in a different town for a couple years. That did something for me. That made me think this is a R for revenge. Remember, GSR, R, revenge. Somebody is trying to hurt him for what they perceived was a slight. Initially, when you start working cases like this, you'll have a lot of different thoughts, theories, things that jump out at you right away. You don't tunnel vision on that. It would have been a very poor choice for me to say, that's the way it is, because that's the first thing that popped in my head. Kidnapping. Let's follow that and don't look anywhere else. That would be a mistake. Because the most important clue is yet to be discovered. When the investigators went to the school and they checked her records at school, which is very important. You want to check grades. Was she getting all A's and then all of a sudden she slipped to E's? That could mean something. Could mean there's drug use. Why? Why the drastic change? Could mean that she was being molested. Why the drastic change? But it wasn't that. It was her attendance record. Okay? I went back to the date, June 11th. So it's the end. It has to be the end of the school year. If things are like they are today in the past 40 years. School starts somewhere in September, ends in June. This is June 11th. This is a little late in the year, but I'm going to assume it's the end of the year. According to her attendance record, she missed 10 days. Now, is that a big deal? Well, not if they're all excused. If the parents know about them. Yet, 6 of those 10 days, 60% of them, were on a Tuesday. Let's go back to the day that she's missing. June 11th. Farmer's Almanac calendar. June 11th. What day of the week is that? You guessed it. Tuesday. So when I saw that, that changes everything for me. Okay? Why is she missing so many days on a Tuesday? Is it coincidence? I believe in coincidences. I've told you that. But they're measured coincidences. Okay? This, I do not believe is a coincidence. So, Kenny, you're making a big deal about this. You're making a big deal about missing 6 days on a Tuesday. And she was found, or she disappeared on a Tuesday. What does it tell you? It tells me she was seeing somebody. And that somebody is an older male. That's a huge clue. I would be looking for somebody that is an older male who lives in the area, who either is unemployed, his wife works, especially on a Tuesday, or if he does work, he has off Tuesday mornings. There's something in the offender's background that Tuesdays are related. Meaning they don't work, they're in town for a certain thing, something. There's something about a Tuesday. Now, what went wrong? Well, that is harder to determine. And the reason it's harder to determine is how she died. The duct tape being wrapped around her head. Not duct tape, it's masking tape. I read one blurb in the newspaper that said the police chief was quoted as saying, she died of asphyxiation, but we can't rule out like an arm being placed across her throat. So, how I envision that and how I interpret that is the masking tape was placed on secondary. Which means there was an argument of some sort between this older male and Joanne, who she'd been having an affair with. More than likely. Or it certainly was the male's intention to have a sexual relationship. And maybe she just never did. And that was the reason she was killed. But if that was the case, I would feel confident that at least the clothing would be removed. Some part of the clothing. The top or the bottom. Or both. But more than likely one or the other. You don't see that here. I would be curious at the autopsy if they found whether her hymen was intact. And that doesn't necessarily mean she isn't a virgin, but I would want to know whether she was a virgin or not. My guess, based on this, is no, that she was more than likely being sexually groomed and assaulted by an older male, probably married. Victimology will tell you whether, I would love to have looked at her grades and talk to her family and friends to see if, there was a decline in anything, in interest in school, because if it's a married man and that's her interest, she's going to lose interest in school. I mean, obviously, she missed the 6 days all on a Tuesday. I can't get over how big of a clue that is. Now, could it be Tuesday she has gym class and she hates gym, so she's going to skip? Sure. I mean, I'm not naive to other scenarios, but when you factor in that she was killed and she was fully clothed, that's a big clue. You have those two things together, it's huge. Because let's just say, we'll play devil's advocate here and say Tuesday she had gym class and a teacher that she did not like. Through interviews with her friends, that's what is said. So she would skip school. She skipped school. I would expect that she was found murdered. She had been found found in some sort of clothing disarray. More than likely sexually assaulted. Somebody's just not going to kill her for no reason. She wasn't shot. She wasn't bludgeoned to death. I can't get past right now, based off of this evidence, that it was a married man or somebody that was in a relationship, an older man in that area who she knew, but she was having a secret meeting with. So she may not have ever been seen with this guy. But believe me, they have met before. And the masking tape is secondary. And why he does that, I think, is because he's inexperienced. And he's trying to make it look like something that it isn't. And so he goes to the car, and what does he have? He has masking tape. Now, why does he have that? That could be a clue as well. Could be a clue, I don't know. Masking tape can be used for auto body, painting. It can be used for a lot of things, but that's a clue. And that leads me to the evidence in this case. More than likely, there's no semen. There's nothing. But there is that masking tape. And there's where he ripped it off. I'm sure they checked that for fingerprints and probably didn't come up with any. He wasn't wearing gloves. This is June. And this isn't pre-planned. Or if it was pre-planned, I'm sure he wasn't wearing gloves. And the reason I'm saying about being pre-planned is maybe the offender decided, hey, she's getting too clingy. My wife's starting to be suspicious. Whatever. And so he decides to take her out. And maybe he doesn't have access to a gun. And he strangles her. But to me, I just think that it's hard. It's hard. And I don't want to say with 100% certainty, but it just seems to me that the tape is staged. Because I don't think he would have left her alive there. What's the purpose? What's the purpose of leaving her alive, taping her hands behind her back, and then taping all around her face? You don't know that that's going to smother her, suffocate her. And you're going to take that chance and just let her lay there? Yeah, if that was a kidnapping, like we said in the beginning, for ransom, yeah, I've seen that before, okay? It just makes me believe that he strangled her first, but wouldn't there be marks on her throat? And I think they said there was no marks on her body. Very strange. Very interesting case, for sure. That's all I got on this case. Like I say, there's just so little information out there, and it's a shame that there's so little information out on older cold cases. But that's the way it is. The one good thing, as much as I hate true crime on the internet and stuff like that, is, and the internet in general, is that some of these cases get new life breathed into them just because of the internet. And podcasts and YouTube, some YouTube videos and stuff, they have helped, without a doubt. So that is good. If we can keep these cases in the spotlight so people don't forget. Remember, 1968, that's a long time ago. Most people that were involved in this case were probably dead now. But there's some maybe that are still alive and have information. And that's why it's important to get this stuff out there. Okay? To talk about it. To give brief assessments. Now, my assessment on this could be completely wrong. But it's missing 6 days on a Tuesday. Skipping school. Boy, it has all the indicators to me that she was meeting an older male. And that's how this case went down. I would not be surprised if Joanne kept a diary. And all the secrets would have been in there. Much like Sherry Jo Bates' diary. A lot of good information in that as well. Are those still a thing? I don't think girls keep diaries anymore. They put everything out on social media. These people, I don't even want to digress on this. But I'm going to, because I just feel strongly about it. So I'm sorry for this little rant. I will keep it short. These short videos that are on TikTok or whatever they're on, where I see guys going with their phones out and talking to these, most of them are drunk girls at bars, at the outside of the bar, asking them how big is too big. What's your favorite position? And these drunk girls get all sexual and talk all this dirty stuff. Now listen, I don't have a problem with all of that until now that I'm an old fuck. And I realize that's out there for everybody to see. Now that 21-year-old girl is going to be a nice mother of 3 someday. And that video is going to be out there for her kids to see. Why does that bother me? I don't know. It just does. It bothers me, I think, because people don't think ahead. They don't think about everything. Everybody wants everything instantaneously. Just like cases. You want to solve it today. When the Idaho and the Delphi murders weren't solved within a week, the police are corrupt. The police aren't doing their job. Slow your roll. Patience. Patience. Think about things before you do them. Best piece of advice I ever got was from my dad. He said, never speak when you're on an emotional level, or never make a decision on that emotional level. Sleep on it. I speak on emotion all the time. But I know what I'm doing, and I know what repercussions are going to be. It's very calculated, I get that. But decisions, whole other story. Don't make a decision when you're in an emotional state. Sleep on it and come back to it. Very important. Sorry for that little tangent. It's just social media has gotten... I just feel bad for these young girls. I just do. They all get on there, and seems like half the videos, they're half naked, showing their stuff, and for what? For views? For likes? To get followers? I just don't understand the mindset of some of these young people, and I am sure My parents said the same thing about my generation. When I had long hair down here, had a bandana on my head, bandana across my legs, 2 earrings in, listening to Metallica before the Black Album, Kill 'Em All, Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, Justice for All, and they probably shook their head at me. So, makes me not feel so bad because I know other generations judge other generations. This is how it is. But I remember being like, I will never be like that when I get older. But I am. I don't know. I should just mind my business. And I do. It's just I feel bad for these people because I think they're being sexualized. And they don't even know it. Yeah, I know they're 18, they're 21, whatever. But if there's any 18, 21 younger females that watch this show, I would just say, don't do that. Don't degrade yourself for views or for likes. Nobody cares about that. That's fake. If you want to know somebody, you go, you shake their hand, you look in their eye, not over the computer. Everything's so fake over the computer. Big digression. Sorry. Joanne Dunham, age 15, died June 11th, 68. She was found 2 miles from her house. I'd be curious to know if where they found her, if that looked like a nice picnicking area, a rendezvous spot, or if she was dumped there, if it was off an access road or something like that. 2 miles, not far for her to walk, I'm guessing, to meet somebody. A lot of what ifs. I'd want to know more about this. So, hey, New Hampshire Police Department and Charlestown, hand the case over to me. We'll work it together. Give me more information. We'll see what we can do. Okay? So, that's it for this quasi deep dive. Yeah, I'll settle for that. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time, hey, mains out.
Yeah, let's talk about